Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, that's technology for you. But as always, my name is Cherrell. I am the host of Let's Talk, and this ain't a podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining us this Tuesday. We did run into some temporary technical issues there. Let's hope everything is resolved now. You guys know how this goes. Drop in my comment section something you're grateful for. While you're doing that, make sure you're following me as well on Instagram at Miss Carter _1X. You can also add me on Facebook at Cherrell Carter. All my social media handles are the same name as my name or Miss Carter. I'm not really on Twitter. I think I'm on Twitter a little bit. I think I have a Twitter page. I do have a Twitter page. You can follow me on Twitter as well at Miss Carter _1X. Make sure you guys follow me on there. If you just joined it, let me know if you guys can hear me. I did have to swap some equipment out for a little bit there. So, can you guys hear me? Hopefully everything's working. Working a little better now. We'll find out. Yes, no, can you hear me? Hey. Okay, perfect. All right, so we gotta be okay from our guest there. And just give us here a few moments. We're gonna get this show started, guys. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so happy you were able to join us today.
Yes, thank you for reaching out.
Of course. So I know you may have saw me when I was talking before, our technical difficulties there. The ritual of the show is that when you come on, you got to tell us something that you're grateful for.
Okay. I'm just grateful for my life right now in general. You know, a lot of us are not, a lot of people aren't surviving through COVID, you know what I mean? And I don't even want to say with their, you know, everything going on. I know we're losing jobs and everything, but I'm just grateful to have my life right now.
Okay. Look, and be healthy. I'm with you. I'm right there with you because, Lord, it's been rough. But I'm so grateful you got to join us today, and I'm so happy we get to talk about breastfeeding. I breastfed my son, so I know a lot of times we have these conversations on Facebook with women, but just give us a little background about what you do and what Just Mommies and Me is about, Brittany.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a graduate of Howard University. You know, I always have to big up my school. And, you know, I've been a registered nurse for a little over 9 years now. And I have a minor in maternal and child health. I've always been interested in maternal and child health since I was in school. I've done internships doing research papers about infant mortality rates and just different things like that. So I worked primarily in the neonatal ICU, level 3 and 4. And then I was also a lactation consultant in the hospital for about 2 years. Right now, I work in community health, so I actually teach first-time mothers basically how to be a mother. And so, you know, I really love that job. But, you know, Just Mommy and Me is just kind of like me trying to create a community of women who can support each other, give you tips, give you some stuff to laugh at, you know, and then also provide breastfeeding tips, breastfeeding services. I'm an internationally certified, board certified lactation consultant, so I can practice anywhere. If your physician says, hey, you need to see an LC, that's me.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not a lot of IBC LCs of color out there. And so I just want to bring awareness to number one, breastfeeding, because our babies deserve to breastfeed too. Number two, yes, you can be young and cute and popping and still breastfeed and be a breastfeed and be pro breastfeeding, and you know that be your passion, and that's okay. You know, I want to show young women that it's okay not to just want to be an influencer with clothes and stuff like that. You can influence other people with your purpose in life, you know. So I feel like I'm kind of walking in my purpose, and I just want to give something, you know, give back to women, be a support to women. Yeah, so that's really a little bit about me. And I have a 4-year-old. I breastfed her for 8 months. It was a struggle, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So a lot of my advice, it comes from personal experience, you know.
Okay, so I know y'all just got all that information because I just got all that too. First off, you graduated from Howard. Let y'all drop some clapping in the drop little head emojis in my comment section, y'all. Okay, because I am such a fan of HBCUs. I did not get to go to one, so when I meet people that do go to one, they just always seem like bomb ass people, and I'm always so like just nice to meet them. Like I don't know, I just love
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we talked about how we were talking about how August is National Breastfeeding Month. This is super important. And I really, it's so many things you can talk about with breastfeeding. Let's just kind of start about, let's talk about your journey, honestly. What was breastfeeding like for you? And how did you kind of learn about it outside of, being certified for it?
Oh, that is a great question. I love that question. Because a lot of lactation consultants, they have this beautiful breastfeeding story about how they breastfed their baby for years and they were inspired to help people. And I struggled so much with breastfeeding. So like I said, I was a NICU nurse before that. And so in the NICU, I actually had gotten like a small certification, like breastfeeding online. So I was familiar with breastfeeding. I would help the moms bring them a pump. And then also, whenever I became pregnant, I, kind of just started, researching, taking classes. But I had my baby at 37 and 4 weeks. I was induced. And I'm very vocal about Black maternal health too, because that's a crisis too. But, we're talking about breastfeeding right now.
That is a very big
issue. I was induced due to preeclampsia. So I had her at 37 and 4. And, when you have a early term baby, they have breastfeeding difficulties. And then also she was jaundiced. So she had to stay in the hospital a day after me. So she was breastfeeding the first 2 days. And the first day it went great. The second day I had the nipple pain, the nipple trauma, all of that every woman most women go through. I won't say every. And then, I had to start pumping because we were then separated. And I have to just set the scene. I was induced on Christmas Eve. She was born on December 27th. So, I had her at the time. The hospitals were, kind of either holding people or trying to deliver. So it was packed. So they couldn't let me stay an extra day. So I stayed in a border room and I pumped. So that really got me off to a rocky start because I had to start pumping, and then she wasn't breastfeeding for 2 to 3 days. Wow. So, once we got home, it was just constant, like she's screaming to get on the breast. And then I had large breasts and she's this tiny little 6-pound baby. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking I'm a nurse. Why am I like this?
Right.
Why am I? So the one thing I can say is that I had my baby and I was a nurse, and, I didn't feel like I got the help in the hospital like I should have gotten.
Right.
And then also coming home, you just want to feed your baby. You know what I mean? And I get that mindset, when parents, that's why when parents say, when they're crying, that's why we give formula, because I just want to feed my baby. And that's why I want to be here to give you tools so that you don't have to do that. And because there's ways around that. And so, I basically pumped out, and then I got into oversupply because I pumped, so I was pumping like every 2 to 3 hours like a mad woman. And I stored all this stuff, but then my baby would start to get on, but then she would pull back. And I realized it's because I had an overactive letdown and I was probably drowning her whenever, the milk finally released. So, we made it about 8 months. Like I said, after going back to work, it was a lot of pumping. She would come on maybe 2 or 3 times a day, occasionally, sometimes none at all. I would take what I could get at that, during our journey. And so, I stopped around, I say 8 months. It might have been closer to 9 months because I was making her food with breast milk because I started making her food. But like I said, I had a really hard time. I know I was pumping. In retrospect, being a lactation consultant, I know I was on oversupply. I know I was using the wrong flanges. I was over pumping. I mean, there were so many things I was doing wrong. But one thing that I can say, and what I like to tell all women, is that breastfeeding your baby, as long as you get that milk to your baby, you're not doing anything wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even if you can't fully feed them, even if you can't exclusively breastfeed, any amount of breast milk is good for baby. It provides them with antibodies, immune properties that they're never going to get from the formula.
I agree. I like that. When I breastfed my son, I was definitely not. I exclusively breastfed until I went back to work, and I was really stressful. So obviously my supply plummeted, and sorry about that. So it went from left to right there. So let's talk about. I do want to get into the beginning stages of breast milk that come in. So that's called colostrum. Can you just explain to everyone kind of like what that is and kind of around what time frame do women typically get that?
Okay. So colostrum is like the first stage of breast milk, the first breast milk that is made in the body, and it starts being made in your second trimester. So
Okay.
your body starts making colostrum in the second trimester, which is why it's called liquid gold, which is why it's called the best, the most important milk for the baby to get, because it's literally being made and held in that body, until baby is born. And so once baby is born, that's when the hormone prolactin and oxytocin kick in, because those are the hormones that you need in order to breastfeed, produce milk, release milk, and make milk. And so, those are now more active because boom, baby is released. The woman's body is such a wonderful thing. And we are just wonderfully and beautifully made. And it's just so amazing. And so, colostrum is so packed in nutrients. It's packed in all types of antibodies, all types of protein. It is very, very, very high in protein, which is why it's like sticky when it comes out, and it's very thick. So one thing I love for people to know, everybody said this is such a common, well, I try to breastfeed, but I didn't make milk. You have to tell your body to make milk in order for it to make it. It is a supply and demand thing. So yes, you have colostrum, but once those stores of colostrum are gone, that's your body. Every time that baby takes some colostrum, that sends that signal to your brain. Baby's here. Let's make milk. So I tell mamas, if you're separated from baby, or if baby is breastfeeding with you, the golden hour, you need to try to breastfeed within that first hour. Baby is more awake and ready, because we know newborns get super sleepy after a point, and so it's really right after that golden hour you kind of lose them, and so you really need to get them in that first hour. And if you have a preterm baby, you want to pump, and a lot of times the hospital is not going to bring you a pump, so you need to start hand expressing within the first hour. That's why I encourage mamas to right now, since we're virtual and there's not a lot of breastfeeding classes, it is a good idea to link up with a lactation consultant just to do maybe a little virtual pre-breastfeeding, consultation. And that way you can learn how to properly hand express, how to do things like that. And so hand expression really helps to get that, get the milk flowing, get that colostrum out if the baby was like preterm.
Okay. And for the people that don't know, hand expression is simply just squeezing your breast just to get the milk out, kind of mimicking what the baby would do if you don't have a pump readily available.
But there is a certain technique for hand expression. And that's where people, kind of get confused, and they're like, well, I was squeezing and nothing came out. And so there's a definite technique. And so a technique where literally you do it a couple times and you see the colostrum flowing right out. And that was my number one thing. Anytime I got into a room with a mom as a lactation consultant, like I said, I functioned as a lactation consultant in the hospital. So I was seeing 12 to 15 moms a day, a very, very fast pace. Anytime I went to that first consultation in the room and I'm teaching them, I'm introducing myself, trying to make them feel comfortable, I teach them how to hand express, and I show them with their eyes that they have milk. And this is why, because a lot of people just do not believe it, and there's no gauge that says empty or full on the breast.
Right.
That's a whole trust. It's a trust in yourself. That's a trust in your body. It's a whole nother level of trust. But also, I want to add one more thing. Colostrum is good because it coats the gut, number one. So it gives you a lot of gut protection. So like I even tell moms, even if you just, I only want a formula feed, please put your baby on the breast that first time and let them get those enzymes and coat their gut, because formula, yes, we all know babies can thrive on formula. I was formula fed, you know what I mean? So I am never one to look down on anyone. I had to give
Right.
my baby some formula. I don't look down on formula because I am a medical professional too at the end of the day. And I know that formula saves a lot of babies. You know what I mean? And there are babies with milk protein allergies and different things. However, they are not born with the enzyme in their belly to digest formula. They're just not. It's a fact. You can go read it anywhere because they are born with the enzyme to digest their mom's milk, which is human milk, just like every other species.
Animal, yep.
Yes. So I just encourage mamas, if you can just try it one time, you know what I mean? And just get the support that you need.
What are some, I know a lot of people always say, I'm gonna run down the different type of stereotypes about, or just excuses that I've heard as to why women don't breastfeed. So we talked a lot just about it being a lot of proteins. Can you run me down just like a good mixture of benefits for mom and baby to breastfeed?
Okay, great. So for let's start with mom. So mom, number one, decreased risk for breast cancer, decreased risk for ovarian cancer. Number three, everybody's heard the term back is real, you lose weight, all of that. However, I want to say this disclaimer to the people who be like, well, breastfeeding, I didn't lose weight with breastfeeding. Well, you also can't be eating, McDonald's 3 times a day. You know what I mean? We gotta keep it real. We on the
Yeah, you
podcast.
do. Yeah, you do.
I have
yeah, you do.
Like, you cannot be eating banana pudding, the oxtails, the sweet potatoes, the yams, the cornbread. You know what I mean? Like, every meal. It's
right.
fine to indulge, sis. I'm telling you, when the bread, you're gonna need it. You want to eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty. But so I didn't want to get on that, but I like to touch on that because a lot of people, I've been hearing that a lot lately and seeing that on the internet, and it's like, well, you still gotta watch your calories. But so you lose a lot of weight, and not only losing the weight, your uterus goes back into place much faster. And let me explain, as Black women, why that's important. Because Black women, we have, what do we always tend to have in pregnancy, or we're more predisposed to have preeclampsia, to just get into full-blown eclampsia, to go into HELP syndrome, which is like the emergency form of that, which is how a lot of these sisters are dying, because they're telling people, I'm not feeling well, and then they're seeing the numbers, but they're not reacting fast enough. And so why that's good for us is because every single time your baby goes to the breast, you release oxytocin, and that makes your uterus, that's the same hormone that makes your uterus contract into place. So if you're breastfeeding 8 to 12 times a day, your body is getting that signal for that uterus to go down. That's why you see breastfed women in 2 weeks looking like they were 2 weeks ago, as opposed to formula fed. Your body's going to do it and release oxytocin on its own because it's just made to do that. And that hormone controls so many other things in your body. But it's going to be released at a much faster pace if you're breastfeeding. With bottle feeding, you're not sending that signal to your body. You know what I mean? It's only kind of when you come in contact with the baby or other natural ways. So they tend to, you see the readmits in the hospital for bleeding, you know what I mean? Or for postpartum hypertension.
Okay.
Because their body had all that blood. You make 2.5 times the amount of blood in your body. So they have all that blood, and it's not going nowhere. You know what I mean? So they already had the hypertension, and then afterwards the blood ain't leaving. So, it's almost like their body's like, what's going on? So that's why for Black women, it is so important for us to try to do, to try to breastfeed in the beginning, because it can really, really be beneficial to our blood pressure and gestational diabetes. Let me touch on that. I had a client, I will never forget her. I love her to death. And she was in the hospital. I met her in the hospital. And so when I was working as a lactation consultant, I was also a primary lactation consultant in the NICU at one point. So I would go around and I would just help mothers pump, get their babies on the breast. So I have a special kind of, skill set in getting preterm babies onto the breast. because I've worked in that setting. And so, you know, I was working with her, and she had, you know, she had gestational diabetes. Her numbers were so high before she delivered. She didn't even really want to breastfeed. She had delivered, you know, early. You know, she didn't want to breastfeed. But when we talked to her about pumping, you know, I kind of got to her early in the hospital because it was a lot of us. But I actually talked to her in like the first 2 or 3 days, and I really encouraged her to try it. And she became a milk fountain. When I tell you, she was making tons of milk. And not only that, she came to me maybe like a month later. She's like, Brittany, I don't even have to take my medication for, you know, for diabetes anymore. My numbers are so stable. You know what I mean? Because with breastfeeding, you start to not only, you know, sometimes it gives you a change. You start to care. Hey, what am I eating? Like, my baby's getting this too. So it subconsciously helps you change some of those bad habits. And she lost so much weight from that first time I met her. I think she had lost like 35, 40 pounds. You know what I mean? So it was just beautiful to see that. And that's really why I do what I do. That's why I, you know, put this information out here and want to continue doing it, because I want to support women in one of the most vulnerable times in their life, and that's childbirth.
And I thank you for that, because I know that it's so hard to get access to this information. I know that I was fortunate enough to go through pregnancy with my sister. So we were pregnant around the same time, and we were both very interested in breastfeeding. So we find different resources and we talk to different women, but we do understand how difficult it was to get to that point. I even in the hospital, I remember, you know, honestly, my Black nurse, and that was my girl. I can't remember her name.
I want to talk about that before I go.
We about to go through all this. We going to do all this. I know that I just found, you know, like my Black nurse was kind of like my safe haven while I was there, because she really, I don't want to say pressure, but more so encouraged me to, like, don't worry, you're still producing milk. So for women that are in a hospital just giving birth, let's talk about I don't want to talk about necessarily colostrum, but just the milk supply. They have milk in their breast, correct?
Yeah. So I'm gonna, yes, let's go over that. But I really want to touch on the benefits for baby real quick. Yeah, right. So benefits for baby, and this is why it's so important, because, you know, right now we're in the time of COVID, and everybody is in this whole anti-vax kind of mentality. If you are going to be anti-vax, have to breastfeed your baby. How are they going to get any antibodies? How are they going to get any protection? That formula don't have no protection in there. You can go and pick up, I would say, just go to the store if you're a pregnant mama and pick up 5 cans of formula. They all have the same ingredients. They might vary maybe by 0.5 to 1 microgram or milligram, whatever unit they're in. You know? But there is no extra antibodies formula. So if you are going to choose to be anti-vax, you need to be breastfeeding your baby so that you can give them, every time you breastfeed your baby, every immunity that you've built up in your body, get some of that. You know what I mean? When they get sick and you put them to the breast, your milk composition changes, even the color changes for them to get better. And so that is just really, really one of the main things that I stress is, if you're going to choose to be anti-vax, then you're choosing to breastfeed. And that's like, as a professional, like that, you know, you got to do it. And so the second thing, like I said, I touched on it before, it coats that baby's gut. It cuts down so many GI problems, gastrointestinal problems, lactose intolerance. How many Black people, half our community is lactose intolerant? I mean, come on, guys. Because we are not built for it. Our babies aren't built. And then number 2, the one that I see so much in our Black, eczema. It is connected to formula. And I want to do research on this. I'm telling you, I want to do research on it, because I really think eczema is linked to not breastfeeding. Because if you put breast milk on like a skin infection,
that's where I was going with that. Yep.
And so if you put breast milk in your eye on an eye infection, it will heal. In your ear for an ear infection, it will heal. Breast milk is medicine for your baby. That's how you have to think about it. It literally is the best medicine for your baby. In the NICU, if you look at any NICU, I worked in the number 4, the number 3 NICU in the country. Okay, at different times. it is, that's what we tell mamas. That's how we tell that's how we get them to pump. This is the medicine that your baby needs. You know what I mean? That is the conversation that we are having daily. So if it's medicine for a NICU baby, it's medicine for a term, baby too. And then the last thing, decreasing on those childhood obesity and sudden infant death.
Oh, that's a big one.
And I say sudden infant death syndrome because that's how it's a lot. Look at the numbers. A lot of our babies are dying from that, dying in the bed, dying because they're co-sleeping. And, I'm not going to, that's another conversation about co-sleeping because it's a way to co-sleep safely. But I have to, watch what I say. I still, work, but,
right.
But I will say, when you are breastfeeding, if your baby don't wake you up in 2 to 3 hours, your breasts are going to, you know what I mean? And so they're not more apt to sleep through the night and not wake up. But if a mom who's formula feeding, she don't have, it's been 3 weeks, she don't have no pains in her breast, nobody, baby sleeps that 6 hours or whatever, and they happen to sleep next to them, you know what I mean? That's what I mean by decreasing the sudden infant death syndrome, just because you are awake, aware, and alert to be with your baby.
Wow. That, you know what? That is something I never thought about that. I never thought about that because you're absolutely right. When your boobs do fill up, you gonna feel that. You gonna know that feeling.
Or you done woke up with that whole bed.
Okay, so you gonna wake up and you gotta get on this boob. You are absolutely correct. That is, wow.
Yeah.
That, I love that. I love it. That is a great way to cut down on what is it? SIDS, I believe it's called sudden infant death. That is a great
sudden infant death, SIDS.
Wow, I never thought of that. I love that. You guys, look, take notes. Okay, so those are the pros and cons for moms, or just like a good mixture of moms and babies. Let me see here. I want to make sure, because a lot of times I know dads, I know kind of like dads sometimes just sit on the sideline when it comes to women breastfeeding. What are some ways that fathers can also pitch in to make this journey a little bit more easier for moms and babies? What can fathers do on the flip side for this?
I love that question. And I was on another live on, what was that, Sunday, and they asked the same question. And I just think that is a beautiful thing to be asked. So the number one thing is be a positive support for your wife. And when I say positive, you have to, like I said, I talked about it earlier. This is the most, vulnerable time in a woman's life. She has just given birth to a whole nother human. Her body is literally changing the most that it's ever changed in her life. And then it's now going down after the baby is out. It's changing totally different. You know what I mean? And rapidly, which means inside her hormones, her just everything. So give her grace and be, positive, support her. Hey, babe, do you need anything? Number 2, wash the bottle parts or the parts or the pacifier part or whatever needs to be washed. Learn how to do that, okay? Just for that little short time, it's just a short time you got to learn. But learn how to do that because mama is literally, I saw this meme and they said, a full-time job is like 1,900, 2,000 hours a year. And breastfeeding, you breastfeed your baby, if you breastfeed for a year, about 1,800 hours. And so, breastfeeding she's literally having a full-time job. And then also she, breastfeeding is a full-time job. And then if she has other kids, if she is, God forbid, in 6 weeks, we're all home. So maybe somebody is making her go back to work. She's going back to work. She might be a teacher. Do you think she also want to be washing pump? You know what I mean? So just be a help to her is all I can really say. And so that's the second thing. And then the third thing, I like to say this, but I have to try to kind of phrase it right.
I understand.
Don't partners always want to, of course, help their, help their wife. And they're like, oh, babe, I see you're tired. How about I just give the baby a bottle of formula while you go to sleep? And that's not even dad, that's grandma. Or that baby just can get one bottle of formula to fatten them up a little bit. Or, I mean, I know you done heard it all. Or that could be auntie, that could be TT, that could be, because support people come in all different, men, women.
Don't get my baby no.
Well, just don't even say that to the mom, because then let me give you another devil's advocate. I have so many moms, they don't even care about them offering the formula because they already in their mind have it set. Like when I work with a lot of women, they have it in their mind, my baby not getting formula. But it's like, it makes them feel like, well, do they feel like I'm not doing a good job? Do they, you know what I mean? Like that's what I hear on the flip side when I'm with these office. Do they feel like I'm not doing a good job? Do they feel like I'm not enough to feed my baby? And is this my husband's way of telling me he wants my baby to get formula? You know what I mean?
And it's a simple miscommunication there. That's all it is.
And not only that, because they're going through hormonally, they probably second guessing all kinds of stuff. And we don't know. Everybody deals with mental health issues, you know what I mean, on one scale or another. So if you factor in the elements of postpartum depression, that you just saying that can trigger something totally different. You think you're offering them rest. They think you're questioning if they're enough to supply and feed their baby. So just try to give her as much grace as you can. And I don't want to say tiptoe around people, but just please understand that they are going to be more sensitive in this time. They are going to be more touchy in this time. They are going to be more reactive in this time because they're, going through so much. Their body, their mind, their life. This might be a first time mom who never even thought she was going to have a baby. So just try to, give grace and be positive.
I like that. Let's talk. I really want to talk about being your own advocate in the hospital. And what are some tips that you can give for moms? I don't even know how to say it because sometimes it kind of boils down just to being your character. But so how about this? What are some things that mom can do leading up to the birth of their baby in the hospital to make sure that they get that support? Is there like some type of letter that they can write out? Should they try to have a support person there to ensure that they get someone to come and talk with them? I know that I was always offered a lactation consultant, but some people are kind of timid. They don't want to speak up. And the hospital can be a very intimidating setting. What are some steps that new moms, specifically new moms, can take to ensure that they're getting the proper postpartum care as well as the natal care for their children or for their little babies?
That's like a beautiful question. I love it. Okay, so the first thing you asked, is there something? I'm like 50-50 on like having a birth. I think you should have a birth plan, but I think in having a birth plan, you have to know that it can change at any second because this is childbirth.
Right.
And so, because you get those people who have a birth plan, and then it almost impedes on you helping them to a point whenever they need it. And so that's why I say if you have a birth plan, but just know in your mind, you need to be convenient with that birth plan. Know that things can change. And I say have a birth plan and then have your like little A. If like my friend asked me to help her write a birth plan, and I was like, okay, you're gonna have, well, what if B happens and what if C happens? Because I'm a planner, I'm that kind of person. So I like think about in the future, like, oh my gosh, can this? So I just say, and that's for people to say, who say very specific things. I would say if you just have a birth plan saying like, I want to breastfeed my baby within the first hour, I want to, that is totally, understandable. And so two, involving your support person. And so letting them know your plan. If you don't have a written plan, letting them know your plan. Right. Because they can advocate for you if you have to go to emergency C-section. If anything happens, they can at least know what you wanted, your wishes. And so number 3, when you get to the hospital, you want to tell your plan to your bedside nurse. And that's every bedside nurse you get, because I understand, yeah, we say, okay, they're going to give a report. They'll know it's in my chart, but no. Because I've just been a nurse. I've worked in the hospital, like I said, I've worked in the hospital for over 10 years. So I just know, I've worked in all kinds of hospitals, big hospitals, small, private. I know how it goes. So let's just tell your plan to every nurse. Like, if you want to breastfeed, when your first nurse come in there, you let her know, hey, I want to breastfeed my baby after delivery. I want to do skin to skin. You know what I mean? Let her know that, so that they're clear, especially if you're in a hospital that, and this, we're talking about Black breastfeeding, and we have to be real. That takes mostly Medicaid patients, and or is in the Black areas. You need to tell them what you advocate for yourself, because they're gonna bring that bottle in there. They're going to, and that's just off of. And we can get into why and so many different why other people want you to formula feed, but they're going to bring it, and so you need to be clear. That night nurse, because a lot of times, babies come at night. You tell that night nurse too.
They do.
Don't tell them, because they're going to be like, oh, you need to rest now. No, I want to breastfeed my baby. And tell them, hey, as soon as baby comes out, y'all can wipe her off. So sorry. Y'all can wipe her off. I want to do skin to skin. Also, I want to breastfeed her within that first hour. So, even if down to, hey, I don't want my baby to have a bath within that first 24 hours, because I encourage you to hold off on your bath. However, and there's actually some facilities that are like, the facility that I used to work for, they are not giving a bath until at minimum of 12 hours, because of the benefits of, of them not getting it, you know what I mean? And so, so that's another thing. And then, really like knowing that if something goes wrong, if your baby goes to the NICU, if, that you are their advocate, and nobody know, like, yes, the profession, I never want to say don't listen to the medical professional, but if you feel like something is wrong, if you feel like in your gut, or if they just not explaining something right to you, because a lot of times they like to come in there, and we supposed to speak at a 5th grade level, but they don't. They use all these medical terms, and don't feel bad about saying, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? That's what I tell all of my clients right now that I work with. It doesn't matter if you're young. It doesn't matter if you're still in high school. It doesn't matter if you're uneducated. It doesn't matter who you are. You have the right to ask questions about you and your baby's health. And so even if you don't phrase that question right, even if it's not the best question, even if you think it's a dumb question, no question is a dumb question when it comes to your health. And so that's why what I tell them is you ask. If they say anti and you don't know what anti is, you say, well, what is anti? You know what I mean? What does that mean? Or if they say colostrum, and there's tons of people that don't even know what colostrum means. If they say colostrum and you don't know what colostrum, that's why when I explain, like when I do my spiel, I tell you what it is, and then I like say the word, and then I try to tell a parent what it is, because you can't assume that people know these terms.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I do want to touch on how, just kind of go back here, how does your diet affect your supply and the potency of your supply? I know that, I feel like my sister ate more, so her son got a lot bigger. I didn't eat as much, so my son was really small. So I kind of feel like there was some type of factor that my diet, because I wasn't eating properly, it wasn't as potent. It was still getting the milk, I was still producing it, but it wasn't as potent. What's the correlation there? Is there any correlation there with your diet and the potency of your milk?
So I don't want to say necessarily the potency of your milk, but the fat content of your milk for sure.
There you go.
And also, so let's put it into a different kind of mindset. It's not necessarily that there's a lot of moms who, you'd be surprised, after they give birth to the baby, they already worried about dieting and stuff. And so then they eating like a bird and trying to breastfeed. No, you can't do that. You still have to eat not only your required calorie amount, 300 calories over that, just like in pregnancy, like when you're breastfeeding. So if you're eating 2 meals a day and drinking 3 bottles of water, you're gonna be dry. You're dehydrated. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna say this. I will say this. Your body will take, so nutrient wise, your body gonna take the best nutrients from you. So you don't really have to too much. I mean, you still worry, but you don't really have to worry about that. You're gonna be that's gonna suffer, not the baby. However, volume wise, if you're dehydrated, how you gonna make milk? You know?
Right.
So my rule of thumb is eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty. And so that's keeping a lot of snacks around you, keeping a water bottle around you literally at all times. So I tell mamas, if you go out and about with baby, you need a minimum of 3 snacks in the bag for you and for baby. Or 3, or whatever, that's toddler wise too. But that's like if you're breastfeeding and toddler, and we get on that later. But definitely you want to eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty, eat those 3 meals a day. Don't try to intermittent fast. Don't try to, do, now you can do, if you want to be keto, or, if you want to be those, like that kind, but not calorie counting, not, just, that's not going to help you in any kind of way. And please stay hydrated. And that's not hydrated with orange juice. That's not hydrated with soda. They love telling you, well, I drink apple juice. Well, that's not water. So with water. And I really say like a minimum of your 8 cups a day when you're breastfeeding. Like you really can't do less than that if you want a good supply.
I like that. I know that. I don't know if it's a fact or anything, but I know that personally, just for me, when I would drink more water, I can tell I had a easier letdown. It was so much easier to massage my boob, and then it would just flow out. So I always just told like a lot of moms, like, drink a lot of water. I know a big thing is that oatmeal is a great way to help maybe increase your supply and your flow. Is that or does different food work for the oatmeal? Is really,
so
what about
different
oatmeal?
foods that work? There's different foods that actually can increase your supply or decrease your supply.
Okay, so give me 3 that'll increase it and 3 that'll decrease it.
So 3 that'll increase, 3 good ones. I would say oatmeal is a good one. And I won't say that it works for every woman. There's always a disclaimer. Everything doesn't work for everybody. The second thing is brewer's yeast. I mean, and that's in a lot of the cookies, a lot of the that's even in like really dark beer. So you'll hear like the old school, consultants, or even old school people saying drink, 4 ounces of the dark beer.
Really?
Yeah, because brewer's yeast is in that. That's why they say that. And so I just say, don't drink the beer. Just go get some brewer's yeast. It's easily accessible. And it's going to be the same amount as you paying for the beer. So just get the brewer's yeast. And then something called moringa. I'm sure y'all have heard of it. It's like getting popular. You put it in the smoothies now. It's like a powder, a green powder. Moringa powder is actually really, really known to help. It's really being found now to help increase women's supply. And then, of course, everybody knows fenugreek, but I want to make fenugreek is not. It doesn't work. It can decrease your supply for some women too. So you just have to be careful. So if you're going to use anything, these are called galactagogues. That's like the fancy name for them. So if you're going to use any of those, like you want to make sure you're trying one at a time. So like I say, if you're using like a lactation tea or the pills or anything like that, you want to try one product at a time. If you're eating a brownie, don't try somebody brownie today and then later you taking the pill, because if your supply increases or decreases, you won't know what did it,
Right.
So introduce one thing at a time. And then some things that can decrease your supply, peppermint. So mint tea, peppermint, you really want to kind of stay away from those. And then they say parsley too, but I feel like you would have to like eat a ton of parsley for that to really happen. Yeah, but mint, you'd be surprised. And I didn't learn that until I was a lactation consultant.
I never knew that. I never heard. That's a new. I never heard that at all. Okay, and then give us one more that can decrease your supply.
Let me try to think. Let's just go with certain medications. Let's say that.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I want to say that because some people think that, oh, I can just go take this over-counter medication. And let me tell
Nope.
you, the most common one, two, that people go take that dries that milk right on up, that Benadryl and the Claritin D, because they're decongestants. They are taking away mucus. You're producing, like, your breasts are a gland. You know what I mean? So it's gonna dry up mucus, so it's gonna dry up secretions. Breast milk, I don't want to call it a secretion, but it's a secretion. You know what I mean? So if you're taking Benadryl every night, and then you like, dang, I had a mom, she's like, I supply, and we just going, oh, I mean, we are like, really, I'm going through it with her. I'm like, what is going on? But she never mentioned that Benadryl. And then one day, I think her eyes were really puffy or something like that, and she had like a red nose, and she was like, yeah, my allergies are really messing up, and I ran out of my Benadryl. I said,
And that's what it was.
what? Yeah. So there are allergy medications you can take, but the ones with the the D ones, Claritin D. Get with the lactation consultant, because we have a book called it's a hell book of medications, and so basically we can look up the medication, we can tell you the category and the risk for with breastfeeding. But yes, that is definitely, it can cause. And then I will say, for those let's talk about birth control just for a second. Because people who get birth control, please, please, please do not start your birth control within the first 6 weeks. Your hormones are trying to re-regulate themselves. And so it is not a time to be adding other false hormones in your body if you're going to be breastfeeding. And I'm not telling you not to ever, have birth control, but if you're going to be exclusively breastfeeding, I mean, some women do get pregnant, but 9 times out of 10, you're not really going to have your cycle. But if you do get back on birth control, I just say wait that 6 weeks, please, for our Medicaid mamas, anybody working with Medicaid moms, because this is what they push on them.
They do.
I am so hip to it. And not only do they push the birth control before they leave the hospital, within the first 48 hours, they push Depo. And Depo is like the worst thing you could literally get for breastfeeding. And Black people are, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 31. And so growing up, that's all the girls was on was Depo.
Yep, that's right.
And, I'll give you a little story. I was working with a mom. It was her 4th baby, and the baby was in the NICU. And she was wanting to breastfeed this baby so bad. She was like, I never got to breastfeed any of my kids. And so we just talking. And she was actually making some milk, but she was like, I was making so much. Then it just like went away. And it was her 4th baby, so it would make sense why she was making a lot in the beginning. She got the Depo shot. And it was like, we were going. And the day after she got Depo, and then I was also working with another young lady who was 17, and she went back for 2 weeks because she was having like a blood pressure issue, and they gave her Depo. She was producing 4 ounces of milk. She went down to producing 30 mLs. So that's the true effect Depo can have, because it has progesterone and estrogen. And so you just have to be mindful. Also, that patch, that birth control patch, if you go on there and you read it, it says it may decrease your supply. That's because it has that estrogen in it.
Wow.
So, and the implant, I mean, I hate to, I mean, I got to do it. You know what I mean? Because
you got to tell
us the real. And so somebody who is Black, and I care about Black women and I care about us, I have to say that. If you please counsel your mamas not to take that birth control right away, please. And if they're going to take it, I know pills suck, but get that low progesterone pill. Just get that one, please, and just taking it while you breastfeeding, and then you can get on the rest of the stuff later. Or if some women, they get those IUD plates, just make sure you research the IUD you're getting. But most IUDs are okay and safe, and you're still going to make milk. I will say that. But I still even say be cautious of that. Anything that you're putting in your body that's a hormone can affect your milk supply.
I like that. First off, let me just thank you just for that little spill of information right there, because that stuff I did not know. I've never heard of it. Nobody's ever told me. So thank you for that. Most importantly, I wanted to just touch on when talking about your medication, ladies, always ask. Don't, even if they don't mention it to you, always ask, is this going to affect my breast milk? I know that I think I got bitten at one point during my or when I was breastfeeding, and I had to take antibiotics. And I was like, is this gonna affect my breast milk? And he was like, well, your baby might be pooping because you need the antibiotics. So it might run through you, but it's going to run through your baby. Do not be scared to ask, will this affect my breast milk? Is it going to affect my baby? Because it may be okay to you, but my baby was pooping left and right because the antibiotics was coming through my breast milk and he was getting it. It didn't harm him or nothing, but it definitely made him run.
But that's, because they're okay. I just, as a lactation consultant, people don't understand everything that you put in your body pretty much is going to cross through your milk at some level. It is not one thing that you're really going to, one medication that you're going to take that's not going to really cross over into the milk at all. At some level is going to come into the milk a little bit. And maybe levels not even detectable to even be detectable to baby, or it could be levels that are like through the roof. You know what I mean? So just be mindful of that. And that's why I say for those moms who even take the sleeping pills and different stuff like that, or, you know, who have mental health issues and they want to get back on their medication, please ask your provider what is best for me so that I can properly breastfeed and regulate whatever is going on with me. Because sometimes they'll just slam you on something and it's not compatible with breastfeeding, and then they're like, oh well. And there are things out there that are compatible with breastfeeding.
It sure is. It sure is. It sure is. I want to thank you so much because I cannot wait. This episode is live. You guys have already seen it. This is jam-packed with so many gems. I am so grateful. Before we go, we got to get your gratefulness, but where can people find you, and where are some great ways that they can get access to the information that you just given us?
Okay, so you can follow me at justmommyandme.com. That's just mommy, MOMMIE and me. Sorry, that's my website. It's actually coming soon. That's going to be released soon. But you can also follow me. That's my @tag at just mommy and me. Also, I'm going to be releasing some. You know, I'm doing this right now just to get my information out there. I'm not, you know, starting my page for, you know, for a business. Of course, you always want to make money, but in this point right now, I just have information out there.
Right.
So my page is going to have a lot of information. I also have my first video, which is complete, and it's called "It's Why Breastfeeding." I'm going to post it on IGTV. I'm also going to post it on YouTube. And it's like a 3 to 4 minute video, just kind of talking about some stuff that we talked about today. And I'm going to do multiple videos like that on different topics. And these are going to be free gems for everybody. You know what I mean? So when they come out, tag people, you know what I mean? You know, just get the word out there and spread the information, because that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change the narrative in the Black community for breastfeeding.
And I'm here to help make sure I provide that platform so people can do so. I am so grateful for you. I'm happy we got this information. I cannot wait to put the highlights up for this video. It was jam-packed. Before we go, we always got to get something you're grateful for when we leave out the door. So what's something that you're grateful for?
Something else that I am grateful for is my daughter. You know, she came into my life, and you know, they say your kids are such a blessing, but your kids are really a blessing. And through many things that I've gone through in our short little almost 5 years together, she has really gotten me through some things. And I just, you know, I'm so grateful for her, and she's a little star, and y'all gonna see her soon too.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brittaney. I really enjoyed our time. I am so grateful I got to sit and talk with you. I hope that all my beautiful viewers definitely gained a lot from this. I hope that you guys have either screenshot this and sent this, because I'm definitely going to post it. I can't wait to share with you guys. And thank you for joining me today, Brittaney. It was so nice to meet you.
Yes, it was very nice. We got to stay in touch. Get me on
definitely
another episode. Oh, let me put a plug out. For any breastfeeding mom who's pregnant, this Saturday, August 29th, I am putting on an event I just lost my train of thought. Me and Sankofa Mama on Instagram are putting on an event called Black Breastfeeding Matters. And basically it's bringing awareness to Black breastfeeding. We're going to have a latch on in solidarity for all the Black women that we've lost this year. And we're also going to have giveaways, and then we'll have a little panel discussion about breastfeeding past, 1 year, and, all the misconceptions and things about that. So please, if you can, it's a free event. It's a virtual event. You can sign up. The link is in my bio at Just Mommie Me. You can sign up on Eventbrite, and we hope to see you all there.
Perfect. Make sure you send me that, and I can definitely post that for you. I know my followers would love that.
Okay.
So as always, thank you so much for joining us, Brittany. My name is Cherrell. I'm the host of Let's Talk, and this ain't a podcast. Bye.
Bye.